All right, next is the CFP semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Number 4 Ohio State 11-1 versus number 1 Georgia at 13-0 from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. That is Saturday, December the 31st at 8 o'clock on ESPN. A couple of things to note here for Georgia. Wide receiver Ladd McConkey and offensive lineman Warren McClendon both left the SEC championship with injuries, and we'll see if they return. A.D. Mitchell is finally healthy, however, and played in the SEC championship, so Dog fans definitely excited to see him back. Then on the other side of the ball, Ohio State wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba will sit out, which isn't really a surprise when you think about it. He's been battling an injury for a while. I know a lot of people were like, why is he sitting out the playoff game? Well, I mean, he's been battling injury for a while, and this just sort of makes sense for him. These teams have met only once, the 1993 Citrus Bowl, which Georgia won 21-14. So it's going to be interesting to see what strategy Ohio State employs here. Bubble screens worked for Kent State, and quick passes worked for LSU. Georgia needs to get quick pressure on the second, or the secondary will be tested majorly by a host of really good Ohio State receivers. Jesse, what is your prediction for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl?
I just don't have a lot of confidence in Ohio State after the Michigan game. And I know that's just one game and I get it. And maybe I shouldn't hang my hat on that, but I really just don't feel like they will match up to this UGA team, to, like a number 1 UGA team. So I also think at the same time that UGA has to be really careful here. They have started really slow in a lot of games, and you can't do that against, a playoff team. So they have to be very, very careful. But I am going to pick the Dogs in this one, 31-27, because I'm telling you, it's going to be UGA and Michigan wins it.
All right, Matt, what do you got?
This is a tough one. I think UGA's defense has proven this season that they're going to be dominant. The offense is shaky at times, but I just have a hard time imagining that we can lean on what Ohio State did against Michigan as the end-all be-all to call this game. I'm really surprised that Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State's top player, has not declared for the draft. Apparently he's going to stick it out and play in this one. So that kind of tells me that Ohio State's going to be gunning. I would look for Ohio State to stretch the field here. They're not going to have a whole lot of time to throw, I don't think. But, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a dangerous, dangerous asset. And we saw what happened to the UGA during the SEC championship. If the offensive, wide receivers start to get open, okay, they can move. That Georgia secondary struggled a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how Ohio State's if they're going to be able to capitalize on that. Ultimately, I don't think they're going to be able to. And I think UGA is probably going to win this thing by a couple of scores. But if OSU could find a way to keep it close, I like OSU's chances, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and pick UGA 28-10.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the Dogs had a chance to look at some of that tape and hopefully make a few adjustments on the defensive side. One other thing to note about this game is Michigan beat out Georgia for the Joe Moore Award, which is the award given to the nation's best offensive line. So, look, I'm not saying that Michigan doesn't deserve it. Michigan has actually averaged rushing about 40 more yards per game than Georgia has. But I also know that Georgia's offensive line will use this as motivation. At least I hope they will. And if Georgia controls the line in this game, watch out. So on the defensive side, key here is pressure on C.J. Stroud. And, in the same sense, how is he going to perform in another big game, which we have historically kind of seen him kind of struggle in. We have two clear-cut games here, Tennessee and LSU for Georgia's defense and the strategy here. In the Tennessee game, we pressure Hooker with tons of blitzes, and it was effective. In the LSU game, didn't blitz near as much, and we gave up over 500 yards of offense through the air. Key in this one to me is pressure, knocking Stroud around a bit, getting in his head, easing the pressure on the secondary. I think that Georgia will be able to score some points, but we got to contain them on offense. So I'm going to go with Georgia here, 35-28. So a little nervous, but we'll see how that goes.